The Campo and Joe podcast is brought to you by Bold City Heating and Air. Fast and reliable AC service.
Welcome, Campo and Joe is on the air, Facebook Live. If you're tuning in on Facebook on 1010XL, we totally appreciate it. Or if you found us in podcast form or just listening to us, we know that you're fired up coming out of a win over the Houston Texans. Joe C. from XL Primetime, our head coach Dave Campo, as we are fired up and ready to go. Coach, they beat them.
Yeah.
When people didn't think they could beat them.
Yeah.
The red-hot Houston Texans.
Unbelievable. Yeah. All I can tell you is that they don't say how it happened.
Yeah. They
only say you either had a W or an L.
Yeah.
And we went down there and took care of business. It was a heck of a football game. They have a good team.
Yeah.
And we knew that.
Mm-hmm.
We knew going in that was going to be a close ball game. We didn't know it was going to come down to a 58-yard field goal hitting the crossbar.
Yeah.
But the game wasn't won with that kick.
Yeah. So
he makes the kick. They still have to win the game.
Yeah, exactly. You're still going to overtime at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
So how about this? So instead of the L right here, we can do
this right here. Yeah,
okay.
I'm getting used to this.
Exactly.
My bobblehead likes going like this.
And so you're back-to-back wins, and this was an important time because they had been humbled by 5 scores by the San Francisco 49ers. They beat what, as you know, I've described, a bad Tennessee Titans team, but they played a really good Houston Texans team. So it was about a point and a half point spread going into the game. The Jaguars were favored in this. I think both of us thought they were going to win this game, but we didn't know exactly how this bad boy was going to unfold. So let's go through it. Let's at least start in the early stages of this game. And I really feel like Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson wanted to send a message that this division, not up for the taking.
Yeah. There's no question that our team was ready to play down there, and that's a tough place to play. I thought Trevor, they did some really good things in the first half. They had a chance to really jump up without, if they make the play at the end of the half. But, I thought we handled ourselves really well. The offensive line protected well. The quarterback had an excellent ball game.
Yeah.
Calvin Ridley and Kirk, showed out. It was just a really good game. And the defense, I thought, played lights out in the ball game.
So if we start on the offensive side, and I threw some numbers at you earlier when we were doing XL Primetime, the numbers really speak volumes about what Trevor was able to do. Now, look, we've been hearing the chatter about Trevor. Is he generational? He hasn't had this many, more mistakes, maybe not as many touchdowns, all that stuff. Anyway, 10 completions for 219 yards in the first half of this ball game. That's nearly 22 yards per completion, and it's guys that are open, guys that are downfield, guys that are catching it and turning upfield and making positive yards. I don't care how you wanted to track it. That was meaningful for him to get off to a quick start like that. And like you said, involve those guys, all of them early.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it all starts, and I think you guys are probably tired of me saying it, but, even though we weren't killing them with the run, we stuck with the run all the way through the game. Yeah. And in that first half, I think the first 2 runs we ran, we made 1 yard and 0 yards. Mm-hmm. But when you do that, there's indecision in the defense's mind. Mm-hmm. And that takes the pressure off of the quarterback a little bit. You could get some things with play action, but also even in the drop back game, you don't know in a lot of situations whether you're going to throw or run.
Right.
If you stop the run, you don't run enough, they know what you're going to do, and that puts the pressure on the quarterback in every situation.
And he ended up 56 yards on 20 attempts. That's not a great yards per carry stat or anything like that. 4 catches coming out of the backfield for 30 yards. So he was doing work. Now, the one thing, we might as well stay here on the run game because ETN, I feel like, is taking not unnecessary shots. Last year, he was taking unnecessary shots because he wasn't quite up to speed the way he'd like to be. Now he's trying to prove that he can run in between the tackles, and I'm a little worried about that, to be honest with you, going forward.
Well, he did get hit.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he had a little chest issue or whatever it was. But, I think that this football team, if you ask what I think they need to do to improve, it's to get the running game going. Now, I don't know how they do that, but, I have some ideas. But, I think that ETN is going to do the best thing to me was Dearness Johnson coming around a little bit so that they have a guy that can kind of spell them And that keeps the running game going. You don't want to run a guy 20 times if he's going to make 1 yard every carry.
Right.
Run him a few times, bring the other guy in, let him take a couple of the 1 yard gains, and then bring him back in, and all of a sudden you start popping something.
Yeah, and Dearness Johnson got off a big play down the right side. Nice little screen game. It was really back-to-back weeks they've been able to hit him with passes in the flat area, and he's been able to turn upfield. Now, I want to make this other declaration. I'm not panicking on ETN, but I do feel like there's a little bit of wear and tear that may be starting to show up and just a little bit of concern. But to the Dearness Johnson part of this, he's now number 2 in the batting order, not Tank Bigsby.
Right.
And you know what I think that is, Coach? It could be blitz pickup. It could be just Tank Bigsby is either starting to doubt himself or doesn't know everything he's supposed to know. And that's a little bit of a concern.
Yeah, I think that both of those things might be part of it. Yeah. I think part of it also is that when you a rookie coming in, there's expectations. He didn't meet those expectations early. So now all of a sudden I think it's more confidence, not only his confidence, but the coaching staff's confidence. You have to trust the guys that when you put them in there.
Right.
And I think Doug is smart enough to bring him along because he did have, was it this game or last game? He had the one run for first down. It was this game.
Yeah.
Or was it last game?
I think it was last game.
Okay. Well, they put him in. They'll put him in some just to try to help his confidence and let him, because they're going to need him in the end. You never know what's going to happen. You said it yourself. Maybe Etienne's taking a few too many hits.
Yeah.
You got to have depth in the backfield. And they got rid of Hasty.
Yeah.
Now, they do have Snoop Connor, but, on the practice squad.
Right.
But I think Bigsby has to get enough work to where he starts to feel the confidence build up.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting that we were, talking about JaMychal Hasty coming out of last year and the re-signing, and that he may have a chance. And then little by little, he was just minimized. And like you said, basically has lost his rotation and now not part of the plan. I do like what Dearness Johnson brings. Not necessarily he can do one thing very, very well, just does a lot of things well enough to keep him as part of the game plan and keep him involved in special teams too.
Right. And I saw him make some blocks in the passing game too. So I think he's kind of a complete back, not a great back, but a complete back to where he can do a lot of things and he can really take some pressure off of ETN. And when he does get the ball and he gets it into a favorable situation, like the screen pass, he can make some things happen. He's got some speed. And, he's got some juju.
Yeah, I told you that I had a prop bet on him to score. It was a nice proposition. It did not happen.
Yeah.
But I thought on that one
you
run
thought
play,
you might have a shot.
I thought he was going in.
Yeah, I thought he had a shot too.
All right, so let's stay on the offensive side. You mentioned Calvin Ridley, 5 grabs, 89 yards, a touchdown. Evan Ingram, 5 grabs, 49 yards. He still hasn't gotten in the end zone. Trevor had him open in the back, didn't hit him on that one play. But we're talking about, and Christian Kirk with that play right down to the goal line. I think all of that comes from better offensive line play.
Yeah. I think the offensive line played very well. And again, some of it is you're sticking with the run to where it takes a little pressure off. So I think they did very well. I thought the offense in the first half started fast, which they had to do. They ran early to keep the defensive line off of the quarterback. And I think that's what we're talking about with the offensive line. And they were really good on third down. Those things are what transpired in the first half to get them going. They scored 3 out of their first 5 drives.
Right.
And the 5th one was the one that they didn't score on the 1 yard line, or else they would have scored 4 out of the 5.
All right, let's stay there because I think you and I might be on opposite sides of this. When they make a big play like that and you have very little time left on the clock, I like the idea that Doug Peterson seems to have in his head as well, and that's go for the kill shot. You've got a chance to score 7 instead of 3. That's more than twice as many points. And so I love the idea of sending a message into the locker room, 53 guys and a message going into Houston's locker room like, we are kicking your tail. We are not going to settle for field goals. We're going to score touchdowns on you. Now, it didn't happen. And then maybe the opposite could have taken place because the Houston Texans got fired up by the stop. Which way would you have gone?
Well, First of all, let me just say you and I are a little different because I don't bet on games. You do.
Occasionally.
So you have a little bit of a gambling, aggressive mentality to you.
Occasionally.
I'm old school.
Yeah.
And I don't like the analytics and all this gambling stuff on fourth down and all that stuff, and that's probably why I'm not a head coach today. But I would have taken the points there. But then you look at the other side of the coin, and you listen to what Doug Peterson said he said that there's logic behind that call.
Right.
Because we were getting the ball in the second half. We had confidence in my players to where we make that one, and we got a chance to score 2 touchdowns in 6 minutes, maybe total.
And those last minutes of the first half and the beginning of the second half, you've always said are really important.
Yeah, and so I can see his point. And here's the other thing, hindsight's 20/20. If it works, it's great. If it doesn't work, it isn't great. Yeah. But think of this scenario, and I said this on the primetime show. I'll say it again. Let's say we kick the field goal. Now it's the last drive of the game. They have the ball, Houston, and we're up by 6. We get to that last play, that last kick from 58 yards. Right. If they were down 6, they would have gone for it. I was scared that they were going to go for it anyway because the quarterback was good enough to get himself moving and find somebody.
Right.
And they had a chance to score and win the game by 1. Well, with down 3, D'Amico Ryans made the decision to kick it at 58 yards, which I would have not done anyway, because I feel like a guy that hasn't kicked the ball over 50 yards.
The Campo and Joe podcast is brought to you by Bold City Heating and Air. Fast and reliable AC service.
Lot to ask.
That's a real gamble. And I've got a number 1 draft pick at quarterback. I'm going to let him try to win the game at that point.
Yeah, I think aggressiveness will always be rewarded. Conservatism may bite you in the fanny. I do know that both work. It's just trying to figure out when to and when not to. And I feel like Dougie Fresh is in the middle of the pack in terms of going for it because it's backfired on him for sure.
You're a riverboat gambler. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
I know people that are watching the show and listening to it watch college football.
Yeah.
Okay? University of Oregon against Washington.
Yeah.
Middle of the year. They
Great
lose
game.
to Washington. They've got 1 loss, and they're fighting Oregon to get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
The head coach in that game, Dan Lanning, who I think is an excellent coach,
He is.
went for 4th down 4 times.
Yeah.
0 for 4.
Yeah. That's not good. Is that, hey, coach, is that good? Is that bad? That's not good. And you know what? The one that cost him, the other ones I could live with. It's the one at the middle of the field at the end of the game. And again, this is I'm looking big picture. 4th quarter decisions are way worse than halftime decisions. But that one at the end was a bonehead decision on his part.
Yeah, see that? He had a little money on Oregon.
You better believe it. And that was a great game. All right, so you mentioned C.J. Stroud, and there was a lot of talk, a lot of chatter going into this game. Is this the rising star at that position? Trevor hasn't played necessarily up to billing and all this kind of stuff. And I'm sure Trevor probably took it a little personal. But we've already talked about how great a game he had. 364 through the air, ran for 1, threw for 1. I mean, he was exceptional on Sunday. C.J. Stroud's a good player we're going to see for a while in this division.
Well, this division is going to be tough. I mean, you got Stroud, you got Trevor, you got Richardson, who was looking pretty good as a rookie early before he got hurt. Will Levis has some talent. Yeah. He's got to have some people around him. So this division is going to be tough. And I firmly believe the tougher the division, if you can make it through it,
right,
hardens you for what you have to do in the playoffs when you get there. Stroud, to me, the knock on him coming out, and I only watched him a couple times before because I knew we weren't taking a quarterback.
Right.
So, I watched him a couple times. The knock on him coming out was he couldn't throw the ball on the move.
Yeah. He appeared stiff, according to the analysts.
Well, he's proven that he can do that. Yeah. And I think that, to be honest with you, if that game was played again game this weekend. Mm-hmm. If our defensive ends, and believe me, the defensive line played well in this game.
Yeah.
If they'd have kept contained on the football, we'd have had 5 or 6 sacks in that ball game.
You and I were talking during the game, and you were frustrated. It's a great opportunity to bring this up because you're a defensive guy, and you know how important it is to get that quarterback on the ground. They did so much to affect him, but then he remained keeping the play alive.
Absolutely.
And then ultimately the Nicos, the Tanks, these guys down the field, you can't keep covering for 4, 5, and 6 seconds.
I say 2 things about our defense if we're going to our defense.
Yeah.
First of all, he didn't scramble around because he wanted to scramble around.
No.
He scrambled around because we put pressure on him, and especially inside, because that's what forced him to the outside. Now, there were a couple where we didn't stay in a rush lane, and he ran right straight ahead, but most of the time he was getting on the perimeter.
Yeah.
Well, we affected him there. But even more important was when a quarterback is scrambling around like that, I thought the secondary did a heck of a job, not so much on keeping him from making some yardage, but keeping from getting the big play where there was guys wide open down the field when they're scrambling around.
He hit the one to Tank Dell right at the line of scrimmage, or right at the goal line, and that was a score. The other play to Nico probably went for, I'm trying to remember exactly how far that went, but that was a double-digit yard score. Right. But by and large, what you're saying is true, and I loved it because you're getting effort from guys. Josh Allen, when it was all said and done, 5 total tackles, 4 solo, 4 quarterback hits, 2 tackles for loss. He gets 2.5 sacks. All this stuff that he was able to do, he was doing work. And then on the other side, there was one play. Trayvon Walker is just wearing the tackle out, but can't quite get to CJ. Gets knocked to the ground. He looks up like he thinks the play should be over at this point. He's like, I am worn out. He looks up, he goes, damn, he's still up. He jumps up and has to run him out of bounds.
Yes.
It was crazy how long CJ could extend.
I think Josh Allen's playing great football.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, there's no question about it. And I think a lot of it is because I wasn't here as a rookie when he was a rookie. But that's the best game I've seen him play. But I think some of it is because Roy Robertson Harris is playing inside of him, and they can run some TE games and ET games where he gets some work that way, and also Trayvon Walker. Let's not forget him. I mean, he's getting better.
Yeah,
everybody said Hutchinson and him. Hutchinson's only got a couple more sacks than he does.
Yeah. And there was one play where he power. Now again, power is his number one move. That's his number one asset. But he drove the right tackle, into C.J. Stroud.
Yeah.
So that's a full-grown man. But if he just learns a little bit more in that T&E game, which you can explain that, he is definitely putting himself in position to make plays.
The ET games, where the tackle goes up the field hard and the end comes up underneath. That's 2 of Josh Allen and Walker's best move. If they can get on a guard a lot of times, that gives them a chance to get to the quarterback because of athletic ability compared to the guards.
All right, now there's a couple things that came out of the game. Let's just talk about Cam Robinson real quick. Robinson goes on reserve injured. So basically he's looking at another knee injury. We saw the emotion on the sidelines, brought to tears at one point, bit of a cheerleader at the end. He was fired up. I believe these guys, even though he was suspended for 4 games, they love Cam Robinson. Yeah. He is a leader. He's a tough dude. He's emblematic of the team. I think they know that about him. But now he goes on injured reserve. You may or may not see him, Coach. 3 to 6 weeks is what Ian Rappaport put out yesterday. What did you think of Walker Little and Ezra Cleveland on that left side?
Well, I think I can answer it easily. Walker Little's a tackle. So when Walker Little goes out there, I would say with a little bit different skill sets, he and Cam are 50-50. Cam is probably brings a little bit more because of his attitude and his toughness and maybe the leadership and all that to Walker Little. If they have to pass block a lot in the game, Walker Little is better than Cam Robinson. So I'm going to just say because of, if you look at everything, it's probably 50-50. So they haven't lost anything by putting him out there.
Right.
Ezra Cleveland is a better guard than anybody else on the ball club.
That's good.
So whenever Ezra
did
Cleveland
you say better than Brandon Sheriff?
Yeah. I think he's the best job on the field, guard on the field. And the reason I say that is Brandon Sheriff does a lot up here.
Mm-hmm.
He's an old dog.
Yeah.
So
You're
he
right.
knows the tricks. But as far as just power and being able to get his hands on guys and stop the progress and all that, I believe Ezra Cleveland's the best. Yeah. So when I look at that side of the line of scrimmage, if you remember correctly, 2 of the runs we popped were on that side with Walker Little and Ezra Cleveland.
Yeah.
So to me, that's as good a lineup. The thing where we're hurt is the depth, because when we got Ezra Cleveland, I thought, okay, we got depth now. Now that puts Shatley and Hance, especially,
Blake Hance,
into the mix. And I think we were a little stronger without, with all of those guys, with Ezra Cleveland and Shatley and Hance as backup guys.
And I like it because Walker, like you said, more natural position. Ezra definitely proving that it's a natural position for him. And I don't know where this goes, but we're all talking about whether or not if they keep winning. They got the Bengals, they got the Browns, they got the Ravens, they got basically the AFC North coming up for the next 3 weeks. This is an important stretch. And if Walker and Ezra keep playing, and let's just say it's a 3-week clock for Cam Robinson to come back, he may not come back to his job.
Yeah, I really think it depends really on how well Ezra plays. I think there's no question there, because I think Walker Little could be an adequate guard, but Ezra is better.
Yeah.
When Cam comes back, it depends on how much that leadership and toughness and that attitude means something down the stretch. And when you get to the real tough ones, when it gets cold and you're having to play, get ready for the playoffs, and maybe you got to go to Kansas City or you got to go to wherever.
Yeah.
That may be the deciding factor. I don't know what they're going to do. I can't answer that question, because I think it depends on how well these guys are playing when he gets back on the health.
It's so important right now. If you think about where everybody is at, we mentioned the 3 AFC North teams that they have to face. Gettable against Cincinnati because of the Burrow injury. Gettable against Cleveland on the road, not only because of the quarterback injury to Deshaun Watson, but also Myles Garrett's not 100%.
Right.
The Ravens easily could be a problem, and there's history between these two teams. Then after that, you go Bucks, Panthers, Titans. Those are 3 teams that could be looking at draft order over everything else. So this team needs to take care of business. So let's finish up with this, okay? As far as the top seed in the AFC, look, we know exactly where things sit with the Jaguars and the Kansas City Chiefs, but just listen to this, Coach. 3 different teams over the course of Sunday had the number 1 seed.
Right.
Okay? Based on how everything went. Jacksonville went to the number 1 seed when they had their win. A comeback victory by the Chiefs over the Raiders put the Kansas City Chiefs back in front. Then the Ravens, with their win over the Chargers, put them back in front atop the conference. This is going to be fun down the stretch.
It is. And I'll tell you, to be honest with you, where we're going to end up is going to be determined in the next 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
And it's against the black and blue division of the NFC North.
Mm-hmm. AFC
North, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I got Cowboys in my I got a little messed up there. AFC North, and it's a tough division.
Yeah.
And you could say whatever you want. Cincinnati's going to be tough. Cleveland going to be tough, especially in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And both of those teams have a history of being tough.
Yeah.
And then Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
The Chiefs and the Browns and the Ravens defensively are really good.
And look, you were a defensive coordinator up in Cleveland, so you know all about the dog pound and all that.
Yep.
And it is not an easy place to play, and there will be noise, and who knows what the quarterback situation will look like. But they definitely have dogs.
Well, I think obviously when you look at the schedule, it looks favorable because of what you mentioned.
Yeah.
You got some injury situations. You got some, the quarterback issues.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be tough games because every game's important now.
Yeah.
This is to me, every game from here on out is a playoff game because now you're fighting to stay where you're at the division and to up your seed in the playoffs.
Once you get to December, baby, This is when it matters. Before it was start talking draft in December.
Yep.
No, sir.
No.
All right, so we're out. We will look forward to next Tuesday, which will be right after the Monday Night Football game. So we'll be able to zero in full focus on that game. All right, Coach, as always, we
Hit
keep
those
the
heads
bobblehead going.
Forward. That's right. We don't want them going sideways.
Dave Campo, Joe C., we appreciate all of you, all of Duval, for tuning in for a little Campo and Joe.
This presentation of the Campo and Joe podcast is brought to you by Bold City Heating and Air. Fast and reliable AC service.